reviews. So, all right. And there we are live on YouTube for Thankful Thursday. Good morning, everybody. Turn the mic over to you all for your lovely. And there we are live on YouTube.
Okay. Good morning. I was before you came on, Sharon and Dove, I was telling Lynn that I've got a little something too, so I probably won't talk as much. And Sharon, you do too. It's like, okay. But I think this first paragraph is what I've been able to think about during this time. Just going, you know what? Let it be purged out of the body. Let whatever I'm projecting onto the body be purged out and go to the new. Go to what I really am, which is truth of being. So paragraph 1 says, I am sustained by the love of God. Here is your answer to every problem that will confront you today and tomorrow and throughout time. In this world, you believe you are sustained by everything but God. Your faith is placed in the most trivial and insane symbols: pills, money, protective clothing, influence, prestige, being liked, knowing the right people, and an endless list of forms of nothingness that you endow with magical powers. All these things are your replacements for the love of God. All these things are cherished to ensure a body identification. They are songs of praise to the ego. Do not put your faith in the worthless. It will not sustain you. Only the love of God will protect you in all circumstances. It will lift you out of every trial and raise you high above all the perceived dangers of this world into a climate of peace, of perfect peace and safety. It will transport you into a state of mind that nothing can threaten, nothing can disturb, and where nothing can intrude upon the eternal calm of the Son of God. Put not your faith in illusions, they will fail you. Put all your faith in the love of God within you, eternal, changeless, and forever unfailing. This is the answer to whatever confronts you. And it's been interesting. I don't get sick that often. And so often when I do, I frantically go, oh, what am I doing? What have I done that I'm, projecting stuff onto the body? Where am I defending against the truth? Sickness is a defense against the truth. Where am I misplacing stuff and projecting it onto my body? And this time it was more like I was talking to a friend of mine where we're all at this place of surrender. It's like, and other things besides A Course in Miracles are demonstrating this same thing. Like when I read Ajashanti or whatever, or other things, it's like, they all get to this path where all the paths lead to the end of the paths. So even the Course in Miracles says you'll let go of this book, or you have to get to this place where everything in the world that you've ever wanted or thought would help you doesn't. And you go beyond it. And you go beyond it to this lesson, the love of God. And you know that no matter what happens on the screen, no matter what happens to your body or your loved ones or your life or whatever, that the love of God is the only thing that you are, and it's the only thing that you want. And that's what I love about this group. And I notice too that recently, and it's been this most wonderful shift in my life of non-judgment, when I realized that every ego has its own path, and we're like these wind-up toys, and we're wound up, and then we just keep going and going and going, and we hit the walls and we turn around and we go in for a while and we hit another wall and until we wind down. And that's just what the ego does. So it's taken away all the judgment that I had about differing opinions, because the opinions that I hold politically or medically or whatever don't mean anything, and neither do the opinions of others. And it's so nice to not have the judgments. It's where Jesus said, "Judge not." Just don't judge that you be not judged. Well, I never really understood that line in the Bible the way I do now with A Course in Miracles, because judgments are of the ego. And since being able to let go of whatever that particular person's path seems to be, whatever they believe, whatever they're going through, I can't judge. And I'm so grateful for that, because even though I would say those words, don't judge, I can't judge, I don't know, I still judged. And I think this thing that happened to me recently with Rod, with realizing that it took me 3 years to get to the place of non judgment about it, even though I do this stuff every single day and I know better. And I was given the answer at the very beginning. And because of all the ego attachments and judgments and opinions and specific special relationship stuff, all of that, it took me 3 years to get to this place of release. I can't believe it. So it's like, well, I cannot judge anyone or anything. Thank you, God. And if, going through what I did with Rod's illness brought me to this place of release, hallelujah. It was for my awakening, it was for my good. I don't think the particular form is necessarily what's good for us or what's going on in form. But what's good for us is always coming back to this lesson. I am sustained by the love of God. And that's always my answer for everything. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sharon.
Hi, Lori. It seems like we have the same thing, the virus, this little virus. This is my first time this year getting sick. Even like in the fall, I wasn't sick. So this is good news. But, when we talk about sickness, we're really, talking about ego, because ego is fear and sickness. The virus doesn't mean that I mean, necessarily, we have to take responsibility. We picked it, but at the same time, I just want to bring attention to a teaching that I thought was so amazing last Sunday. I went to Awakening Together, and my friend Beverly, I'm missing her last name right now, but she did Helen Hamilton's teaching, and it was all about be love. But it was also done in such a way where life is lifing. There is no any kind of personal thing going on here. It's impersonal consciousness. So when we're in the field is a pop thing. It pops, but like, it seems like we have this free will, but there really is no free will, because it's a happening and it already happened. So it's kind of like, you get sick, so what? So what? What I have found is I had more guilt, and still do, in my mind than I ever believed I had, and I still have it coming, because anything in this world is pure guilt. It's an attack on our creator. So I feel like this teaching that Beverly was saying is, she said, let lifing. So what if you miss the mark? So what? And that is what I've learned, because it's really ego. And there's nothing wrong with ego, because, by the way, the ego does live in us. I think until we're out of the body. But the ego isn't a monster. It's a monster when it's in the lower part of the ego, because the lower part has all those judgments. And when Lori shared she's not judging, that is the whole course. This is a dream of judgment. If you can let go of judgment, you're home, because you're just extending. You're extending love. As soon as we stop judging, extension takes place, and everyone feels that light. So, and the most important one for me is me, because that's who I'm the hardest on. When I'm judging another, I'm judging me. When I'm believing that I shouldn't be sick because I must still believe in guilt, well, yeah, of course I do. I believe in my body still, but I also know that the light has come. And that is really what's important to me, because that's the only thing that's eternal. Everything else here is a smokescreen for our guilt as the sun shit. And as far as not judging, I think this happens organically, because that's what's going on for me. I find it almost boring to watch these political stories now, and I was so entertained by them, I guess, or just attracted to the guilt. You know, now it's what am I attracted to? Well, the stillness, the light. That's our true essence. And what I am seeing is what Bev taught on Sunday, which was that life is lifing. We are not making any decisions on this plane at all. It seems like we are. This morning I got up and I was very nauseous. And I got to tell you, Sharon doesn't like nausea. So, so that was a lot of complaining. But it was kind of like nauseousness is happening. Chills were happening. Everything is happening, and it's not what I thought this awakening would be. None of it. It's a very simple process. But you know what? Jesus makes a promise in the Course that you will get there. And I didn't stay with the Course for years either, because it's happening on its own. You can't do anything wrong in this world because it's already over and it's done. So the light is here, and that is the focus now, to stay with the light and realize that it's the light of love. We are the children of love. Now, I did have a good morning because I had Ken Wapnick in my ear for probably about 5:30 till 8. And when I tell you his teaching was so powerful for me today on so much, but his gentleness. He never, like, if somebody's upset, he'll make a joke, but he won't like poke at them and make fun of them or say, you know better, or nothing like that. He is the epitome of a teacher of God. And I use him, as I think Dove does and Lori and most of us on here, I think every one of us, as an elder brother. And I want to also just say that the other night was very special to me because Robert, I actually ran off his letter. Robert was we did Robert on Tuesday night, and it was a letter on his gratitude. And it is a magnificent letter. And I just love to love, and I love this group. And it's over to you, Dove. And there's Cher. Hello there, honey. Hi, honey. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Sharon. I put up some of your quotes on the board. I like everything else here is a sunscreen for our gills. Yeah. And I also kind of moderated that thing there. You can't do anything wrong in this world, for there is no world. Oh, how's that, baby? Let's see. I want to talk a little about lesson 50. As it happened, most of you know I do TikTok under the name We Are One, and I thank those people like Lynn who does come watching my TikTok videos and things like that. I made one last night. I guess I was somewhat prompted by the fact that we're on lesson 50, which is today's lesson. And let's see if I can actually play it right here, right now. Hold on. In this world, we strive to get things that we think will make us happy, things that we don't have, that if we did have, make life so much better. Truth is, we are sustained by the love of God, by the peace of God. We already have everything that has any real value to us, the eternal. The things of this world exist only in time, in beginning time, ending time. And you say, oh, well, of course I'd like to have it while I'm here. Guess what? This world, we strive to get things that we think will make us happy, things that we don't have, that if we did have. Oh, it doesn't do the full minute. Obviously, I wasn't taking it directly from TikTok. I was taking it from something I had in my photos. Anyway, the whole 1 minute didn't fit in. Anyway, what I wanted to say is lesson 50 is really the same thing as lesson
76, I'm under no laws but the laws of God. You know, it says, you know, you have faith in this and that. None of it really means anything. You actually believe that these things are going to help you do something for you. They don't. I am sustained by the love of God. It's only the love of God within me that sustains me, not the things of this world that I think are going to do something for me. You know, that kind of brings up something I'm going to be presenting and announcing a little bit later in the next session that Karen and I do, starting at 10:30, which most of you know about, is any one of these 20 lessons is the whole course. We already did the 20. We're now on, we're going to do the thing in the introduction to the textbook, which is, I can sum up this whole course for you in these few lines. Nothing real can be threatened. That's pretty much what lesson 50 says. Nothing unreal exists. And what is the definition of what is unreal? Anything that can be destroyed is unreal. I just got it this morning from Uncle Ken. Anything that's I'm sorry, I didn't get it from Ken. I'm sorry. It was in the textbook reading which Prudence plays from the chapter on chapter 6 on the resurrection. Anything that is real cannot be destroyed. Anything that's unreal doesn't exist, means that anything that can be destroyed it's not real. It's part of the artificial intelligence of this world that the ego made up to have us believe. And that's pretty much exactly what Sharon was saying. Everything else here is a sunscreen for our guilt. Doing anything in this world to get rid of the guilt is a joke. Ego wants you to do something in this world to get rid of the guilt. That's impossible because there is no world. He tells you that in lesson 132, happens to be my birthday lesson. And what I've recognized in my life is that the things that are the metaphysical ahas of this Course in Miracles is the stuff that actually has given me the ability to actually share on the Course easily, because once you become aware of the metaphysical laws, and they are laws, for instance, there is no world. I mean, why do I think that there's a world? There's nothing outside of me. Why do I think there's something outside of me? As Ken did say this morning, he says, if there's nothing outside of you, why would you be upset and angry at something that's outside of you? There's nothing outside of you. Why are you upset? So most of us go through the metaphysics of this Course exactly as he said. We disassociate it. The ego says, oh, you know, there's nothing outside of me. Now, that's a true story for me. I've told that story many, 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 many times, that when I first came upon it, I was into the Course about 2 or 3 years, and I said, there's nothing outside of me? That's crazy. I mean, what do you mean there's nothing outside of me? Everything's outside of me. I said, well, the next line is, this is what you must ultimately learn. So Dove, in his dissociation, said, well, ultimately means one day, you know, when I'm old and gray, you know, I'll probably ultimately understand there's nothing outside of me, but not now. It took 40 years of dissociation to the time I was standing in an airport with John Mundy. He said, hey, Dove, do you know what the word ultimately means? I said, what? Because my dissociated mind means, well, one day in the future. And he says, no. Ultimately means now. It's the ultimate now. So that was 40 years of dissociation with one of the most awesome metaphysics of this course. So I'm going to be announcing in that next hour that I'm on with Karen, that we're starting, because we only have one more week after this. We're going to start a new course. Right now, the name of the course is Metaphysics Awakening. We kind of transitioned from metaphysics ahas, because whenever I really come across a metaphysical principle, and as Ken Wapnick will say, without understanding the metaphysics of this course, the course can't help you. The course can't help you. As he says, what do you do when you come across a line that says you have eyes that don't see, you have ears that don't hear, and a mind that doesn't think? You just keep on reading? Well, of course the ego keeps on reading. It dissociates it. It says, and just keeps on reading. So I feel we're going to do a 3 or 4 month program on the metaphysics of this course. In the first class, we're going to actually be looking at section 1 of the teacher's manual, which is who are God's teachers, to give everyone the semblance that we are all teachers of God. If you see your interest is shared with the interest of others, you are a teacher of God. It's that simple. You don't have to know anything from A Course in Miracles to be a teacher of God. You see that your interest and your brother's interest is the same interest. If you think it's different, well, you got a little bit more to go. But you still, it's just a lesson you came here to learn. We're all God's teachers, that's for sure. Karen, who helped formulate the 4 months of classes, that we're going to be visiting different sections of the text and some workbook lessons that highlight the metaphysics of this course. Because of her schedule, because she's still involved in some prior necessary work that has not been done yet, but she only has a very small window to get it done. She asked if she could not do this next section. I did ask Mikhail, and Mikhail said yes. So it would be Mikhail and I doing the section that follows, which is called the Metaphysics Awakening, or you can call it Metaphysics Aha. We don't really know. We'll see what happens. So I just wanted to share that. And this is the first time I'm sharing it outside of with Karen and Mikhail, and also Gloria. And Gloria knows about it too. Anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you, Dev. I love what you said about 40 years of dissociation, because I basically was saying the same thing last fall before I went into a dark night of the soul, saying, I've been doing this every single day for 40 years. What the hell is wrong with me? Either I'm stupid or a slow learner, or I came to the conclusion that our minds are so powerful that we made up a world where we projected all our guilt onto it. And we wrote the story, and we can't even figure out the ending. And we even wrote the ending. And that's how powerful we are, how tricky we are, and how almost fail-proof the ego escape box is. You can't get out. You don't get out of it unless you listen to the right mind. But so you were saying, the ego can read those words like ultimately, and then it just keeps on reading and it goes right over its head. And that's what I've noticed too in my life. It's like you get a small sense of comfort when you read that, but then it's like an instant, a nanosecond, and then you go right on to your ego attachments. And I have a client who's in the same place, and And I always say my clients seem to be following me up in the rear, like I might be 2 or 3 steps ahead of them. Where this client, she's going, I've been doing this my whole life. How come I'm not further along? And then I go to that place in chapter 31, section 4, that says men have died on seeing this, that they found that the world offered no relief. All the ways that they tried in the world never never did anything. And all men must come to this point and go beyond it. Again, where are they going beyond it to? Right here in lesson 50, I am sustained by the love of God. And so rather than giving up and going back into getting cancer or getting a disease or killing themselves or whatever, when it says men have died on seeing this, it can be actively killing themselves or subtly, projecting it onto some deadly disease because they can't deal with it. I love lesson 136, the line that says, now are you sick, that truth may go away and threaten your establishments no more. And so I've been thinking about this during this cold or whatever I have, like going, okay, well, whatever it is, I know that the ego is rebelling because I can feel this huge shift that has happened in me where, like, for example, before we went live here, we were talking about some medical opinions, vaccines and all that stuff, and I tend to be more in the middle, and I don't hold the liberal views on that, and yet I don't now. I no longer think there's a right or a wrong. I'm just going, well, this dream character, has these opinions, that dream character has those opinions, and they don't mean anything. I used to vacillate back and forth between, well, I'm right and you're wrong. Oh no, you're right and I'm wrong. Oh, but it was just this hot potato of guilt. I'm right, you're right. I'm right, I'm wrong, you're wrong. And it didn't excuse me. It felt crappy. And now it's like the dream characters, like you were saying, Sharon, life is happening. The dream characters have their opinions because that's just what the wind-up toy does. And I'm so grateful to be relieved of those judgments. It's like, yeah, whatever. I don't have to get upset. I used to get upset about them, and I don't have to do that anymore. And I don't even believe my opinions. Um, I don't believe anybody's opinions actually. So, and that comes down to what you were saying, Dove. There's no judgment or nothing can happen because there is no world. And when I have seen that there is nothing outside of me, like Dove was saying, there is nothing outside of me. When I took 100% responsibility for what happened to Rod, I kept trying to pan it off on Rod. Why did Rod do this? Why did he have to go through this horrible thing? Why did he have to take so long being paralyzed until he woke up? And when I asked his friend, his really good friend, about that, and his friend, being a good course student, said, it was for you. It was about you. It wasn't about Rod, which of course everything is about us. It was about Rod too in his lessons, but everything is about us. It's all our dream. We're making it all up. And so when I've had these major shifts, it always comes with taking 100% responsibility that I'm doing it to myself, and also making a very firm decision of, I'm choosing love, I'm choosing God, I'm choosing life, I'm not choosing that anymore. And I can feel this shift in me. And I was just hoping Bob Sears would be here this morning, but he's not. I'll tell you, I loved his book, Relationships from Specialness to Shared Purpose. I had some shifts while reading that book and felt very chagrined, like, oh my God, I did that. Oh, I did that. I was controlling there. I was manipulative there. I was demanding there. I was needy there. I played the game here to act like I wasn't being those things in order to get what I wanted. And oh my gosh. But as I was reading it with this forgiveness and shared purpose and going, you know what? they accomplished what they needed to accomplish. Each relationship was perfect. And anyway, that's this big shift I feel happening, and I feel like the ego is resisting it, and that's why I've got this this cough. And I can also look at it and laugh and not get, it's just like, you know what? But no, I'm sticking with being sustained by the love of God. And I'm not worrying about it. It's like, yeah, I know this shift. I know that this being, this character in the dream is acclimating to a higher level, to a higher vibration. And old stuff is being purged out. And I'm becoming a new person. And there's a line in the Bible that says, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." And way back when I first started the metaphysical spiritual path in 1986, there was a minister named Jack Boland who was a very prominent unity minister. And he was in the Detroit area. And oh, I loved him. He was so good. And he did a class on that. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, because unity teaches the same thing as A Course in Miracles. And that was my first introduction to, it's the power of the mind that changes everything. And so the difference here with this cold that I have, this cough, is I haven't been judging the dream character Lori. I haven't been going, bad girl, what have you done wrong? Da, 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 da. You better figure this out and stop doing that projecting onto the body and going, like a mad woman inside of me trying to release and forgive and figure out what is going on. It's like, I don't have to do that. All I have to do is go, well, obviously there's some guilt there being projected onto the body, and just love yourself through it. Just be sustained by the love of God through it. And that's where this shift has come. And I'm just so incredibly grateful for this shift into the non-judgment. And like what you said, Sharon, non-judgment is the whole course, So anyway, I'm going to turn this back over to you, Sharon.
Yeah, it just seems like we're all like in similar places, doesn't it? The judgment takes a lot of energy too. Judgment is, when we have a block, that's a judgment. So we're blocking love from coming through the body, even though there's no body, but we're blocking it with our concepts. Now, what I did say, I don't know, is a smoke screen. I didn't say sunscreen for guilt. But, what I have seen is the guilt that, and what I'm noticing as a noticer, because that's really all we are. We really just notice everything. We're not the person. The person's not reality. And we are reality, right? So, so the judgments, I used to see how the ego loves to identify with someone on the same side. It really does. It just thinks, well, now you and I are one because we both agree we don't like blah, 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 blah. And pretty much that's how egos live their life, right? It's like, it's so subconscious. We are not aware of most things here. And the sickness, I don't even judge when I'm in the ego. I figure what the heck's I'm supposed to be. What difference does it make? But if you stop judging, you're no longer in the ego. That's the ticket home. That's what Lori had said early on. You can't stop a judgment unless the right mind's really out there saying, I don't want this. Because the right mind has the energy to love. Love can heal anything. I mean, it's what it does. That's what it's doing now. Holy Spirit is what we are. And we are never really that person. We are spirit. If you want to call us spirit, sometimes it's better to say we don't know what we are. Because the question always gives you the opening. Like if I say, is it really true that this happened? right away. That is a question. And the question becomes the questioner, and you get this peace. Like, in other words, is that really true? I mean, could really like so and so do this? Like, in other words, if you question your egoic thoughts, you see that they're just nothing. They're just like, it's like the good witch. You put it out with water. Not the bad witch I meant in The Wizard of Oz when she threw water at her. That's what it does. It just dissolves these ridiculous thoughts patterns, and that's what they are. The pattern of hate is really underneath all of it, but you don't see it until you see. And that's an important thing for any course student to realize, that everybody is in the exact place they're supposed to be in. And even if they're in this hate today, so what? It transmutes into love. That's what happens. If you're not shameful, if you're not pushing up against it, it just transmutes into peace. And let's say you want to stay angry. Ken was talking this morning. You don't lie about the fact that you're angry, but you realize you don't really have any reason to be, but you don't feel guilty. You own it. You own it because they're just passing energies that want to be loved. These energies want to be held. They want us to say, listen, we love you. I still most times through the day think I'm Sharon, right? But I'm mind, and mind is all mind. There's nothing else here but mind. This is a matrix that we're living through, and quite entertaining. It's like a drug, Let me see what's going on right now with the midterms coming and blah, 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 blah. And all of that. Ken would say it was yesterday and today that I listened to him a lot. And he was basically saying it doesn't mean anything. But the meaning is an addiction, right? Because it's the interpretation. With the I don't know, you don't have an interpretation. Because you don't know. I'm talking to myself, by the way. As we all know, we are always just talking to ourselves, right? He's saying here, like he has, Ken put this in from chapter text 21. It is impossible that the Son of God lack faith, but he can choose where he would have it be. Faithlessness is not lack of faith, but faith in nothing. And that's just as simple as it can say. Like, we have faith in a world that's just, it's transient. It's movement of energy. There's nothing concrete here. But imagine the power of our minds when we believe that we are these people. Then it's like, whoa, like, when you have anxiety, right? I'm just giving a hypothetical example. When anxiety comes, a lot of times people say, like, sit with it. Well, we are not wired to sit with that. Okay. The machine of the ego is not wired to do that. It's a push up against system. It's really resistance, total resistance of what is. And that is the most important part of this process. Lori, I'm so glad you brought up Bob, because at one point I want to tell you, I don't know, Lynn must have sent it to you, but you got to read it because it's a beautiful love letter that he sent to ACIM. And I actually ran it off. What I found recently is how everyone is my teacher. Bob is in his 80s. He can no longer eat. He's on a feeding tube, but he can write. And he's an example of the strength of God. When you realize that God is sustaining you, you don't need all the neurosis. The neurosis is just neurosis. It doesn't mean anything. It's a habit. Now, by the way, Sharon was and is, when she's Sharon, a very neurotic person. And you could say it's because I'm Jewish, but I don't think that's a good excuse. That was the way I was brought up. But the Sharon character is playing her part. That's all she's doing. as a neurotic art teacher, a woman in her 70s, blah, 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 blah. But there's nothing that, when I look here, like when he says faithlessness is not lack of faith, but faith in nothing, he's basically telling us we have faith in nothing because nothing happened. Faith given to illusions does not lack power, for by it does the Son of God believe that he is powerless. Thus is he faithless to himself, but strong in faith in his illusions about himself. Seek not outside yourself, for it will fail, and you will weep each time an idol falls, and they will fall. And they will fall. We are here temporarily, period. We show up on this Thursday, we're supposed to. If we don't, we're not supposed to. I think for a complicated ego, this is not a good teaching, because complicated ego is that, well, you have to work for this. No, you don't. At this point, give yourself a pass. So what if you judge once in a while? So what? You're still the Son of God. That's all that's here. There is just this dream of lack and attack on our Creator. And that's why it's such a monstrous dream. It appears right now that it's very, very high strung. But if you look at the energies, when I paid attention to that energy, it was tension in my body. Tension. That's what it does. And the seeming body that I'm living in right now does a lot less with tension now. The ego still talks about being bored because it doesn't like boredom. What are you doing? You're just rocking in a chair. Well, what else is there to do? I'm as much a piece of furniture as my chair here. I mean, we are objects in this seeming dream. Of course, the subjective self, or the infinite self, or the eternal self has never, ever, ever become form. But we are so powerful, we're hallucinating our characters. And we love our characters. We really want, and I shouldn't say we, I loved my character, loved it, probably just addicted to her, But have you ever sat in the silence? There's a resonance, there's a memory in all of us that the silence is really who we are. And you can endure this and just wrap, like, I feel the love of God within me now. I feel the love of God within me now. That's the love. But I, as Sharon, as the character, didn't even think about God when I went through a lot of hell in my life. Not even think about it. Where a lot of people on this call are Christian, I'm Jewish, and I wasn't religious. And my mother only called upon God when it was an emergency. And a lot of times he didn't answer because it's a play you can't change. So it's kind of like, I remember I said this before, and I'm sorry if I said it a couple times, but Andrew, my oldest boy, used to say, Mom, you're so upset about all this stuff that had happened to you with losing everything and yada, yada, yada. And he said, but God. And I said, God, I'm going to be with him for eternity. Right now, I need my money. Now, who does I sound like? I sound like every ego. That's what we do. We think that these paper dollars mean something, that means we're a special person. And all of that is a hoax. None of it is true. What's true is the now, the power of the eternal, and the glory of knowing that all of this meant nothing, because that's glory. Nobody had a great dream. You can't. You're in duality. You're going to have bad with good. But I think for today, and I kind of want to say this about Robert's love letter that he wrote us, because it's so beautiful. I'm meeting mighty companions on this path that are extraordinary. And that's because my mind is in that place right now where I'm looking for love in all the places that exist, which means I am so eternally grateful. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to you, Doug.
That was awesome, Sharon. I mean, such powerful sharing. Everything you said was so perfect. I mean, really awesome sharing, Sharon.
Well, if Lori wants me to read that letter, I can. She said she saw something, but she didn't. That.
I would love that. I just thought of that. Yes, please.
Well, I think Dove wants to speak, and then I'll read it. But
No,
I'm telling you, oh, you loved it too, Dove. Yeah, Dove spoke the other night. We were all like, this is such a beautiful family of ACIM, a beautiful, beautiful family.
Before you do that, I saw Cher waving and trying. You got to unmute, honey. We can't hear you.
She's on her phone.
Sherry, you're muted. You're still muted.
You're still muted, honey. She doesn't hear us.
You're muted.
Oh, okay. I got it. I was trying to get it. Patience, my love. I was about to get out and come back in. Okay. I just want to say I'm committed. Today is the 50th day. I grew up Catholic and I went and got my ashes yesterday, and I'm committed to my juice cleanse now because I just had to say, I mean, I loved all that y'all just shared, but I'm ready to get this, being in the ER with the brain encephalopathy that I just went through. I don't have a brain. I haven't had a brain for a long time, but there's nothing in this world I want. And I got back into the addiction a little bit with the alcohol and the sugar. And at 67, I can't deal with that anymore. So I'm just committed. I mean, I have all these supplements over here I'm looking at, and it's funny. I dropped my kidney and liver supplement, and it just went everywhere. And I thought that's the liver and kidneys are what I'm having problems with. And I thought, isn't that good? Because I'm not sustained by those supplements anymore. I'm sustained by self-discipline and self-awareness, and just know that I'm sustained by the love of God. I mean, I love this. It's very similar, Deb, like you said, to the I'm under no laws but God's. And I've always loved that one, and I'm committed. I'm just committed. I have to be. I won't make it. The brain inflammation has been bad for so many years. And that's why I don't get on and talk. I mean, half the time I'm like, what did they say? I get off and I can't remember anything or anything. And David used to say, oh, don't worry about it, but it is serious when your brain doesn't work. It is very serious, but maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking that's okay too. But I realize there's so much about me that I want to be numb. There's in Gabor Mate and his stuff, the addiction, it's always not why the addiction, but why the pain. And I always like that because there is pain and there's pain and suffering. But being an empath, like I said, I've always felt guilty when I start feeling good and I'm out there shining and glowing. And then I have so many friends that are really struggling right now. And I know that doesn't do me any good, to struggle with them, but I just always felt guilty. Oh, you have such a good husband. I've heard that a million times in my life and blah, 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 blah. But I just want the peace of God, we're not here forever. We are not here forever. And the older I get, I realize, and like this guy we're about to read, I read it that came through, and it's beautiful because, feeding tube and all, so I'm committed. So I wanted to say thanks, you guys. Love y'all.
Oh, we love you, and it's one day at a time, really, one day at a time. Just take the day, Cher, and the most important thing is don't believe your mind. Don't believe your ego, because it's not telling the truth. Anyway, I am going to read Robert's letter. Cher, I don't think you know Robert, but I told you yesterday, I thought maybe I told you about a guy that we read for on Tuesday nights. It's an absolute example of the most beautiful soul and love. He writes, "Goodbye for now. There comes a time when the body completes its assignment. I can feel that time approaching. The body grows quieter, more fragile, less willing to cooperate with the plans it once carried out so easily. This is simply its nature. It was always temporary. But the mind, the awareness, the love behind the words remains untouched. To my friends at ACIM gathered, you arrived exactly when you were needed. What began as a conversation became companionship. What began as study became shared awakening. Many of you were catalysts for essays I did not know I was ready to write. Your questions stirred something deeper. Your honesty invited my own. Together, we explored ideas that at first seemed abstract and discovered they were intensely personal. To those across the many ACIM Facebook groups who read, questioned, and challenged and encouraged and sometimes disagreed, thank you. You gave me a place to test what I was learning. You allowed me to say out loud what I was only beginning to understand. Writing was never about teaching you. It was about clarifying my own mind. You generously let me do that in public. Through essays about ownership and the illusion of hierarchy, about forgiveness that feels impossible, about equality as the only ground of peace, about the ego's endless courtroom drama, and about the love that does not change when circumstances do, I was really writing one simple truth. Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. That line is not philosophy, it becomes an anchor. We wrote about relationships as classrooms, about control that dissolves when fear is seen clearly, about guilt that softens under gentle honesty, about the belief in separation that looks so convincing and yet never truly holds. Over and over, the theme returned. We are not what we think we are. The body is a costume. The story is a script. The fear is learned. The love is not. We wrote about relationships as classrooms, about control that dissolves when fear is seen clearly, about guilt that softens under gentle honesty, about the belief in separation that looks so convincing and yet never truly holds. Over and over, the theme returned. We are not what we think we are. The body is a costume. The story is a script. The fear is learned. The love is not. And all in all of this, Cherie has been my steady companion. She has supported this entire effort, even when the words took more of me than I expected. She added clarity when I wandered. She grounded what might have floated away. She kept me going when the body wanted to quit long before the mind did. If any good has come from these teachings, her presence is woven through every page. This body now shows more signs of frailty each day. It tires more quickly. It resists more often. That is not tragedy, it is completion. The body was never the source of what we shared. If you had read my essays, if you had opened one of our books, if you have paused over a sentence and felt something shift, then I'm still with you. Not as a memory, not as a personality, but as the shared awareness that recognized itself in those words. Every time you read a passage that reminds you that only equals are at peace, that forgiveness releases the forgiver. That love asks for nothing and therefore cannot be threatened. You and I meet again, not in form, in recognition. We have written about trials as lessons not yet learned, about fear melting when he examined gently, about the idea that we are not here to win arguments, but to remember who we are. If any of that has been helpful, carry it forward, not as my teaching, but as your own knowing. Do not mourn the costume when it's folded away. The actor was never the fabric. Thank you for walking with me. Thank you for reading. Thank you for questioning. Thank you for allowing me to learn out loud. If these words have meant nothing to you, then we are not saying goodbye. We are simply turning the page. And that's his thing. So, Lori, I'll turn it over to you if you want to share. I'm sure you might want to say something because that's a profound essay.
Just thank you for reading that. That was absolutely beautiful. And
He's, yeah, he blows me away. He's the most precious soul.
yeah, his book is beautiful like that too. It's one of the best relationship books I've ever read. It is so loving and so peaceful, and you can look at your ego dynamics without judgment because of the way he writes it. It's amazing. So
It
yeah,
is. It's amazing. But he has so many books. He just, think about this. He's 83, he has not eaten in 2 years. 2 years. That's a long time to sit without any kind of that pleasure. We're so addicted to that pleasure. He has, they has a feeding tube. So that's what's keeping him sustained, but in the body, but God is keeping him sustained. And he was just a treasure for all of us, and he still is. He's still here. He's just probably resting this morning. So
yeah. So
I just love it that I can think about the 80s not being like, it can be a time of more opening, more loving. You know what I mean? Not like, oh, I'm old now. It's almost over. That's what the ego says. Oh, I'm so old. It's almost over. But the spirit says, I live for eternity. Anyway, Lord, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
no, I'm done. It's Dove's turn.
All right, Dove, it's over to you. You got the last of the minutes. Where are you, kiddo?
Well, actually, I'm done too. I will make one comment. When Lori started off in her last sharing, you said in text chapter 31, section 4, it says, men have died on learning this because they saw no way except the pathways offered by the world. I couldn't believe it was in text chapter 31, section 4, because that's also in lesson 132, which is my birthday lesson, says that there is no world. So he repeats the exact same thing. And because of that, I'm going to change the title to Metaphysic Time Savers, because they do save you time. That's exactly what it is. Love you all.
All right. Thanks you guys so very much. Happy, thankful Thursday. I did want to reiterate about Robert. He didn't start writing until he was 80. I think he's 83 now, and he has written numerous books, essays. He's prolific. So I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to share with him and to be a part of his life so that, that what he was able to share has become a part of our grounding here too. So grateful for ACIM Gather, grateful for all of us here. And thank you.